2019, Tremaine Jackson left his role as a defensive assistant at the FCS level to be a head coach in Division II. He took the head job at Colorado Mesa, where he led the Mavericks to an 8-2 record in 2021. He had CMU trending in the right direction, but an opportunity to lead one of Division II's best programs was too good to pass up. On January 3rd, he was named the head coach at Valdosta State and is tasked with keeping the Blazer program among the Division II elite. He is the first black head coach in Gulf South Conference history, and he joins our Matt Witwicki as we go inside D2 football.
You've been in South Georgia now for about 3 weeks or so. Tell me a little bit about what's the latest and how things are going down there.
Well, it's not as hot as people told me it was going to be this time of year. It's actually pretty cold down here. So I'm glad I got some long sleeves with me, but it's been awesome. The football is as advertised here. The people in this town, they love Valdosta State. They love Valdosta State athletics. They love Valdosta State football. And the expectations are high. And so it's been really good. Getting a chance to know the team right now. Really, really happy with where they are. And put a staff together, and now we're rolling.
Now, you and I have known each other since back when you were a defensive coordinator at Sioux Falls. Today, we had -8-degree weather in the morning. You being from Houston, I'm assuming you're kind of missing some of that up here.
Well, your assumption is wrong. I'm struggling with the 42 that we have right now.
Okay. Well, that's convertible weather up here, but
I remember.
Hey, Valdosta State, is seemingly one of the top jobs at the D2 level. And that said, I had mentioned to you the moment after, Coach Goff took the McNeese job. You and I had chatted, I think, within days of that. And I said to you at that time that, hey, you might be a nice fit at Valdosta State because you and I chat from time to time. Mm-hmm. And at that point, you didn't seem like you were, maybe that was on your radar. I guess my question for you, Coach, is what kind of changed over that time? What made Valdosta look very attractive to you going forward?
Well, Valdosta State has always looked attractive to me as a lover of Division II. Starting my career in Division II and always being at a place like Kingsville, where when you walk in the offices at Kingsville, you see pictures of them versus Valdosta State in the semifinals, early 2000s and things of that nature. So I've always noticed Valdosta State. I've always thought it was a great place to play football and to coach football. And so it happened really fast. At the time that I talked to you, I didn't know anything about this opportunity. I was kind of chatting with you about it to see, what was out there about the opportunity. And a couple of days later, I go to practice at the University of Houston, where a guy named Doug Belk, who is from Valdosta and coached here, he's now the defensive coordinator at the University of Houston. He asked me, hey, would you be interested in Valdosta State? I was like, yeah, I'll walk backwards to Valdosta, Georgia for a job like that. And then a couple of days after that, I get a text message from Mr. Reinhardt, our AD, and it kind of snowballed from there.
Gotcha. So with that, then, if we were to go ahead, I mean, you were at Mesa. Obviously, we talked, in the introduction about the strong year that you guys have. Did you feel that Valdosta maybe had a higher ceiling for you, or what were some of the other factors that you really looked at on the football side of things?
Yeah, I was pretty content and set at Mesa. I was actually about to sign a multiple year contract, and that had never been done at Mesa before. And so we thought we had a pretty good football team coming back. But I sat on my couch December 18th in Grand Junction, Colorado, and I watched this football team play against Ferris State. And I thought to myself that, man, I want to get our football team to look like that. I want to get our football team to have those type of athletes. And, at Mesa, you have to do it with guys out west. I'm from the South. I'm familiar with this style of football down here. And so when the opportunity came up, the number 2 team in the country, got one of the best quarterbacks coming back in the country, a team that just played in the national championship and really is hungry to get back to that point. When they call, what do? When you're trying to model your program that you're currently at like theirs and they actually call, then I think we had to take a strong look at it. And so I was really thankful. I was really happy that they reached out, and the rest is history.
Sure. Let me ask, now that you're taking a look at, you jump into recruiting, obviously a little bit on the late side of things. How has recruiting been, considering the fact that you guys did have to kind of come in on the back side of things here?
Well, recruiting's been going pretty good. There's a running joke in our hallway with our coaches that everybody wants to be a Blazer. And so we have no issue finding guys to want to be Blazers. What we have to do a really good job of as a staff is making sure that they can actually help the Blazers win. And they can help the Blazers in the community, and they can help the Blazers in the classroom. So we've got to do that as coaches. We've got to go through each player that we find that's sent to us, that calls us, or that we feel like is a good fit. We've got to go through it and make sure that they really fit what it means to be a Valdosta State Blazer. And so it's definitely different. We were hunting guys down and following behind them at my previous place, and now people are doing that to us. And we get the calls, we get the emails that you heard, like the quarterback from Fair State sending the email to the top 10 team and seeing who answers. Well, we're getting those emails now because we're sitting in the top 5 in the country. And so it's been fun. It's been fun to recruit this type of athlete. It's been fun to see all the speed down here in the South. But we don't feel like we're behind. We feel like we're on time. Recruiting has changed so much in the last couple of years with the portal, with just the way high schools, the new signing day for Division I. So I think we're right on time, and we're able to get some players that can help the Blazers win.
Sure. Let me ask you, you mentioned, interacting with the community, your players and so forth, and being engaged there. I couldn't help but notice when you were in Mesa, in Grand Junction, obviously you struck up a friendship with the chief of police, and it seemed like you wanted to kind of create a bit of a bond between your squad and the community. What can you tell me a little bit about that time? And for you as a head coach, what were your expectations with that?
Yeah, Chief Shoemaker, the Grand Junction PD, he and I we're friends today. I actually got to send him a text message about the Chiefs because the only knock on Chief Shoemaker is that he's a Kansas City Chiefs fan. And so I meant to send him one the other day after that win. But what I wanted to do there was I wanted to build a friendship, a bond, like you said, have a relationship with the city in the police department, because we were bringing a lot of black and brown kids into a program that didn't have as many as we were bringing previously prior to me and the rest of our staff getting there.
Sure.
And we were, what people don't know is before George Floyd, before social injustice really hit, we had a player who got pulled over for running a stop sign that was coming to host a recruit for us. He was really shaken up after getting pulled over by a Grand Junction police officer. That happened in January of 2020. And really from that moment, I wanted to do something and work with local law enforcement because he was a young black man. He had a bad experience with police. And I knew that was a one-off experience. So we wanted to make sure we connected those dots to try to let our players know that, hey, all police ain't bad police, no matter where you're from.
Right.
It just so happened that the social injustice movement, the George Floyd murder, that stuff, it really ignited, it made it faster. We were in COVID, everybody was sitting at home. And then I saw a post that Chief Shoemaker made about how he disagreed with what he had saw. And I thought that was a great opening for us to get together and talk about not just the George Floyd situation, but policing in general with people of color.
Right.
And so we were able to form a friendship. We were able to get the university on board, get the city on board. And I think the work that he and I did during the last 2 years is really beneficial, and I think it's going to carry on even after he's gone, since I'm already gone. But whenever he decides to hang it up, I think that relationship will carry over.
What type of looking back at your time in Grand Junction, what are your most fond memories of this last 24 months, and what will you kind of hold with you going forward?
Yeah, I always remember going through COVID and playing the 3 games in COVID. I thought it took a lot of grit to play those games.
Sure.
I will always remember riding to Black Hill, South Dakota, with face shields and mask on, and we looked like a bunch of Martians getting off the bus. And I'll remember the way our players went about that, because they did it. They did it. We live in a time where we can't walk in the store with a mask on without wanting to take it off. I watched these kids do it for 20 hours there and back. And all because we wanted to play a football game, and we felt like we needed to play for our players. And so I'll always remember that time. And then obviously I'll remember when we beat Colorado School of Mines. That was special. People don't know that Mesa is far less funded than that school. And I remember the helmets that they had on they had on the Vices helmets, which were about $600-700 helmets.
Right.
Man, I remember going into the locker room, because you go in together, and I went, man, every one of their players has a Vices helmet. And we got guys that some have Shutt, some have Riddell, some of them are 8 and 10 years old, but our kids fought. They fought regardless, in spite of what we had. They just kept fighting. And so I'll always remember that game. And then the last thing I remember from that game is the way the city supported us.
Yeah, you guys had a great crowd there, didn't you?
Yep, we had a sellout. The energy was rocking. That last play of the game, I couldn't even hear myself think. And so that atmosphere was something that we were striving for that hadn't been done at Mesa. And so for all those things to come together, 2 years and come together in one game of the 2021 season, I'll always remember that. And then the players' faces after the game, when you accomplish something that's never been done, I'll remember that as well.
Sure. At Mesa, something that maybe not everyone realizes, at Valdosta State, is that you're coming in as a defensive guy at heart. Your squad ranked 13th, I believe, in scoring nationally, 10th in yards. And this is on the defensive side of the football. And you've had stops, obviously, as we mentioned earlier, at Sioux Falls and Abilene Christian as a defensive coordinator. Have you gotten the impression from Blazer Nation that that's kind of the area that they really want you to address coming in?
Yeah, everybody I meet, they go, Coach, it's about time we got a defensive guy, because after the national championship, we realized we need one. And so
let's be honest, though, Ferris State gets the best of most teams, probably, if not everybody, in D2 this last year. They were just really good.
I tell people Ferris State looks better than the Detroit Lions to me on film. And so it's the job Coach Anise has done there is extraordinary. And so, but no, it is different being in Valdosta State, home of the air raid, where the air raid kind of caught its legs in the mid-90s, and got a guy like Coach Hatcher who took it to another level with the Hatch attack style of air raid. And air raid after that, even Coach Goff had played for Coach Mummy and played in the air raid, and he's an air raid guy. And so then you bring this guy in here that's talking about playing 4-3 defense and multiple fronts, multiple coverages, and everybody's asking me about the air raid still. But here's what we know. Everybody here has been so welcoming, because they know that in order to win another national championship here, you can't let the other team outscore you. And so they want to score points still. They want the ball to go up in the air, but they want us to tackle extremely well and take the ball away too. And so they've welcomed me and this staff with open arms, but they've got their questions. They want to know exactly what we plan to do. And I think it's just a fun deal.
Well, the defensive side of the football, it kind of leads us into the whole conversation of the 212 defense that you've been known for over the years. You see that right now. You guys have got it hashtagged on social media and things of that sort, and something that's kind of a part of you as a football coach and what you bring to a squad is this 212 defense. For the folks of Valdosta who may not be familiar with what that's all about, what can you tell them? What does the 212 mean?
Yeah, the 212 is it's actually a book on it on the boiling point, and 211 degrees water's hot, 212 degrees it boils. Where I was, where this started in 2009, we felt like we could be the extra degree to get our football team over the top, and so we use that 212 analogy and that 212 motto to be the extra degree. We say if 1 degree can cause steam to power a locomotive, then certainly this one side of the football can power a football team and ultimately win championships. And so that's where it came from. It was catchy. People think it's this scheme, and it's really just a mindset. The scheme is a scheme. If you've seen us play defense, you've seen 1,000 people play defense.
Right.
But what's different about us is what we really believe in, and that's each other, leveraging the football, tackling extremely well, and taking the football away. And we put it into our players every single day, and they play with such a level of energy and enthusiasm. It's always worked out for us, even when we weren't as talented as other people. The 212 has always won.
Your defenses have always been very physical, and you've seemed to put an emphasis on that 4-3 front, trying to stop the run. Is that a fair assessment?
That is. Physicality is the name of the game, and we've always tried to match or exceed our opponent's physicalities when we played. And so we feel like if you stop the run with, you can have some fun. And me being a D-line guy, we've always coached it that way and going, hey, man, we stop the run, then we can really get after them on third down and rush the passer and get your fancy spin moves and everything you see on TV. But first and second down, we got to do a really good job of stopping the run, getting them behind the chains. And so our players have bought into that over the years. And I always tell Coach Anderson, 1 year it's going to run out. It ain't going to work for us. And every year he continues to build and build. And so now we're at the point with the 212, nobody wants to be the defense that's not statistically good. Nobody wants to be the defense that's not in the top 25 in a bunch of categories. And so it's fun for them to compete with other defenses that aren't even playing right now.
Right. Let me ask, when I take a look at your staff, your coaching staff, you brought some pieces over from Mesa, added some, from whether they have a, history with Valdosta, maybe in other systems and things of that sort. What can you tell us about, your full-time staff members on both sides of the ball?
Yeah, I think it's a young, diverse staff. Might be one of the most diverse staffs in the country on this level. We are. I think they're very knowledgeable. Most of all, they love players, and that was a requirement to work here and work for us. And all those guys meet that requirement. They truly love players. They want to build men. They absolutely love football, and they want to incorporate their families into our football program, which, again, I think you got to have. And so when we put together this staff, we set to put together a staff like no other in the Gulf South Conference and in the country. And I think we've done that. And, everybody always praises their staffs. Our staff is still undefeated, so I'm going to praise them a little bit more. But, no, I think these guys, I brought 4 of them with me on the full-time staff from Mesa. I brought 1 graduate assistant with me as well. And so it's been really good to incorporate our culture because you got guys that have been doing it with me since my first head coaching job. So I'm excited about these guys.
Coach, everyone's in Valdosta has gotten a chance to see you, whether it was the press conference, local news did a nice job of covering, what's going on down there as well. Your coordinators probably haven't gotten a chance to get the light shined on them a whole lot. You bring Brandon Anderson on over from Mesa. Obviously, I know Brandon from the past. He played at University of Sioux Falls. And What can you tell Blazer fans a little bit about your defensive coordinator, Brandon Anderson?
Yeah, well, I don't call the defense at all. Brandon Anderson calls it. He game plans it. They actually put me out the room. But Brandon Anderson is the smartest defensive coach that I've ever been around in my career. From the time I met Brandon in 2013, he was just a GA that all he did was watch film. All he did was break people down. I think his time as a player at the University of Sioux Falls, he probably wasn't the most talented guy, but he was the smartest guy in the room. And so I always say, man, he was going to be a coach even before he knew he was going to be a coach. And so he does such a good job with our players and relating to our players. But schematically, he gets players in the right spot. And you're right, Brandon doesn't get a lot of credit. One thing people don't know, Mesa had never had a top 10 defense in Division II. Well, he brought that there. We had never given up less than 20 points a game. Well, we gave up 15 points a game. And that's all because of what Brandon instilled in those guys and his staff that he works with on a daily basis. And I think, I don't know how long I'm going to have him. I think he likes being around me a little bit right now. But he's no doubt one of the best defensive coaches I've ever been around. So I'm glad I was able to bring him with me. But he'll be a head coach here really soon.
I can remember after his playing days, I chatted with him on the sideline. I believe it was after Sioux Falls at Duluth. I'm going to say circa 2013 or so.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember him telling me a little bit about what they were trying to do defensively and what he was seeing. And listening to him just talk about it, I thought, wow, this guy really peels the onion and goes a few layers deeper. And it really impressed me just in that first chat as a coach. Because I think if I'm not mistaken, I think he may have been a GA at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it was just really impressive to listen to him chat. Now, let me ask you, how about then also your offensive coordinator? He's a more recent hire, and got from you that you haven't had a chance to work with a lot yet. What can you tell us about him?
Yeah, Rick Bowie is his name, and Rick he's coached a lot of different levels. He's coached high school football. He's GA Division I. He's been a high school offensive coordinator at one of the top high schools in the country, St. Francis Academy, out in Baltimore. He's from Baltimore. That practice I told you about with me meeting Doug that kind of got this job started, I actually watched Rick coach. And he was working with the quarterbacks and receivers at the University of Houston. I thought he had the most energy on the field. I thought the guy was really knowledgeable with what he was teaching. And most of all, what I really liked about him is people don't know this, but he was a fourth grade teacher. So he really breaks things down to the smallest detail for guys. And I think that's coaching. That is, if you can deal with some fourth graders, then certainly you can coach on any collegiate level. And so my best friend, Archie McDaniel, is a linebacker coach at U of H. He said, hey, I don't know who you're looking at, but I think you really need to interview Rick. And so we did. I interviewed him at the convention and was absolutely blown away with his preparation, the things that he brought to the interview. I interviewed 9 guys at the convention, and he was the only one, came in a suit, had all the practice plans and things of what he would do here at Valdosta State, and he had film, and we sat in the lobby, and we sat for hours and just kind of talked about his plan. And the biggest thing that sold me is the relationship with players and how he was going to recruit guys and how he's going to take care of them once we got him here. The football was a no-brainer for a while after looking at some of the things we want to do offensively where it fits our current quarterback. That was a no-brainer. What sold me was the fact that he was a great teacher and he really wanted to help build me in and build a relationship with players. And so I think we hit a home run with that hire.
Sure. You mentioned Ivory Durham, your quarterback. For people who haven't seen him, one of the most electric players in D2 football. Throws a heck of a deep ball. When he takes off running, good luck catching him. Tough guy, too. What can you tell us about kind of behind the scenes? What type of leadership qualities he brings to your squad?
Yeah, I think even before I got here, you could tell what kind of leader he was when the announcement came that there was a coaching change that was about to happen. I think he went on Twitter and said, "Hey, we'll be good," and that calmed the seas here.
Yeah.
Very rarely, when a coach changes these days, that a lot of guys don't go jump in the portal, right? Like normally, you see a coach change. You saw that in Nevada when my man went to Colorado State. 15, 16 guys when they got in the portal because they're losing who they thought they were coming to play for. There was 2 guys in the portal here that we ended up losing, and those guys were pretty set on leaving even prior to Coach Golf leaving. And so when he decided that he wanted to stay at Valdosta State and try to redo, what they had just done and the success that they just had, then I think it calmed our whole team down. That showed me what type of leader he was, even while I was going through the interview process. When I got here, you can see it physically because he's always up here. I think he's here when we get here in the morning. He goes to class, and then he's back in the afternoons. He's a lover of the games. I think Ivory, you got to run him off the field and cut the lights off on him before he would go home. And so you're talking about a guy that's a holistic student athlete. He's got great grades, made a 14-game run and had over a 3.0 GPA. He takes care of his body. He's a professional. And very rarely do you find that on this level, but you see very quickly why he's had the success that he's had. And he's a great, great dude. He's just fun to be around. And so I'm glad he's my quarterback. I'm glad he's here at Valdosta State. We can't wait to see what his senior year has for him. But you can tell, why this team has been successful, and a lot of that is due to his leadership.
I recall in passing you had mentioned to me something about recently that on MLK Day that you had him kind of go ahead and do some stuff with the guys.
Yeah.
Can you kind of revisit that with us?
Yeah, so I was getting here and I didn't really know how things worked, but I knew that there was a community service project coming up. And we have these group text deals where we can send out a team message, but I hadn't had access to that yet. And so I pulled him in here and I said, hey, HJ, I need you to tell the team to be there at this community service project. And he asked me what time, and the next thing I know, everybody's there. When we get there that Monday, I didn't send out any message. And so he took care of it. And what was funny about that is the president of our university, Dr. Carvajal, he was there. And he walked over and said, hey, you said in your interview that you were going to do community service stuff with the team. I didn't think you were going to bring the whole team. I said, yeah, I do what I say I'm going to do. So HJ actually made me look pretty good by doing that and getting those guys there. But again, when he puts out a message, people listen. And there's some other guys like that as well. But when your quarterback does that, then you got something special.
Speaking of relationships, I couldn't help but notice when you were at your press conference, when they were, bringing you out as the head coach days after the announcement, your athletic director, it seems like you guys have a pretty good working relationship and understanding. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I got a lot of respect for Mr. Reinhardt. He's picked some coaches, and he's got 4 coaches that's taken teams to national championship games. And obviously, the success we've had in just the Gulf South alone, not even getting to the national stage, but the last 17 years have been really good for Valdosta State football. And so part of me wanting to be here at Valdosta State was because of him. I really felt like, man, if that dude picks me, then maybe I got a shot because he's done a good job of picking them. He's picked some really good coaches. And so I was excited to be around Mr. Reinhardt. I told him when he offered me the job, I said, I want to be coached by you. A lot of times as a head coach, you think you do all the coaching and you don't get coached. I wanted to be coached. I think I've got a long career in front of me, hopefully. And I wanted to learn some tricks of the trade from him with all the success that he's had over the last 30 years. And so anytime a guy has a day named after him, November 6th is Herb Reinhard Day. You got to kind of want to be around that guy and learn from him. And I'm really excited. I probably hug him more than he wants to hug. And he's a shorter guy, but I swallow him up with these hugs because I'm really excited for him to be my coach. I don't call him my boss. I call him my coach. And so I'm fired up about that. And just the success that we've had, not just in football, but overall in athletics. People win here. You learn very quickly that football ain't the only sport that wins at Valdosta State. We've got baseball and softball, and our women's basketball team is doing really well right now. Our women's basketball coach is the fastest coach to 50 wins. She hasn't been here 3 full years yet. So she's, people are rolling. It ain't just a football school. It's an athletic school. So
Sure.
a guy built that. He built that. And I think you got to want to learn from winners. And so I'm excited about where he and I's relationship continues to go.
Well, he seems excited to have you on board. At least that's what I kind of got from the presser. Coach, let me ask you: if I take a look at the RMAC, where you came from, and now you're in the Gulf South, how is football different in one conference versus the other? What do you need to prepare yourself for? How do you see that?
Yeah, I mean, it's no disrespect to the RMAC, but here's what happened. I went from a conference where football was taken extremely serious by a couple of schools. And now I'm in a conference where football is taken extremely serious by every school.
Sure, we called the SEC of D2 pretty often.
Absolutely. And so where, there were some games in the RMAC that you felt like you should have a chance in. As I look at our schedule and as we're finishing up our schedule, man, it's a dogfight week in and week out, kind of like the SEC. And then you start looking at player types and you start going, man, that defensive end in the Gulf South looks like he just transferred from Vanderbilt or somewhere in the SEC.
Sure.
Where, some other body types out west, they just don't look like that. And so we learned very quickly. One of the first things we did as a staff was we cut on the tape of other people in the Gulf South. And we said, okay, we got to transition our eyes from football out west and what it looks like to football back down south, what it looks like. Because whether people know it or not, those are 2 different styles of football.
Speed on the perimeter and other things.
Absolutely. Big girth up front. Guys are tall and big. There's not very many converted tight ends to tackle down here. There's a lot of guys that have been tackled since the 6th grade. And that's what they do. They play tackle. And so you really got to get your eyes ready for it so you can go recruit it and not be behind.
Do you have to kind of change some of how you recruit as a result of that, knowing that you may be up against, a little bit of a different beast?
Yeah, we don't have to change it. We don't have to settle is what we don't have to do. We don't have to settle for a shorter kid because, he's 6'1". We can go get the 6'3" kid on the D-line. We can go get the 6-foot corner. We don't have to settle for a 5'9" guy. Nothing against those guys, but we've got options.
Is some of that based on your location, having a lot of markets that aren't terribly far from you, whether it's anywhere from Atlanta down to Miami? I mean, you take a look at some of the skill players last year in Valdosta come the championship game. There's plenty of guys from Miami. We just talked about Ivory Durham. If I'm not mistaken, he's a Jacksonville guy.
Mm-hmm.
So is some of having some of those big markets in areas that frankly are very, extremely talent-rich areas.
Yeah.
Is that some of kind of what you've got in front of you?
Yeah, we're 15, 20 minutes from the Florida border. And so we're an hour and a half from Tallahassee. We're 6 hours from Miami. It's definitely where we are. Not to mention the Carolinas, not to mention Georgia, not to mention
Right.
Alabama. It's just so many options of players around this part, where when we were in Colorado, there's only about 15 to 20 Division I players in the state of Colorado. Here, you're around hundreds of Division I caliber players that all the Division I's can't take. So you end up getting and being able to beat out some FCS schools on kids simply because of who we are and what we've done in our past. And those are exciting. Not to mention, we have the scholarship that we need in order to compete against those schools. And so it's definitely about where we are. Location was definitely a big part of the reason why we wanted to be here.
Have you gotten a chance to dig in to your roster and see where you think are more pain points or positions of need, coming into this recruiting group? I mean, once again, we talked about that you guys came in a little bit on the late side. I know you haven't had a chance to see all these guys running around in pads yet or anything like that. But what do you perceive to be some of the areas that you guys are really trying to beef up at because you think it's immediate need for the 2022 season?
Yeah, we're going to keep the same philosophy that we've always had, and I learned this from Adam Dorrell. You always want to be good on the O-line, the D-line, quarterback, and cornerback. And I learned that from him when we were Abilene Christian together. And when I really thought about it, we had always recruited those positions really hard. We never put it that way. And so when I went to Mesa, we kept that philosophy as well. And so it's if you always recruit those four positions, you'll never find yourself behind in those four positions. And then obviously we're going to recruit linebackers and running backs and obviously receivers. But those four positions are normally why you get beat. You get beat because you can't cover a guy. You get beat because you can't rush the passer, stop the run. You get beat because your quarterback doesn't make great decisions. And then you get beat because you can't protect the quarterback. So we're going to always try to recruit those four no matter what our needs are, and then kind of branch off from there. But we'll keep that same philosophy throughout our tenure, and I think it'll work for us like it did before.
Last question for you, Coach. I'll let you get on with your night, but let me ask, as I take a look at, you guys, I had a chance to watch, obviously, some games on the television of Valdosta this year. For Valdosta State fans, what do you have to tell them, coming into your first home game and things of that sort? What do you want to kind of convey to them, from a coach that maybe they don't know terribly well, and a football team that they're going to, they're going to know some guys or not going to know some guys? What do you have to tell to your fan base?
Yeah, I told everybody during the press conference that our hashtag is KTF, keep the faith. And we'll reiterate that. Keep the faith. Keep the faith that we're going to keep the program going in the right direction and make some enhancements to help make it better. Keep the faith that I understand where I am and what we've taken over, and keep the faith that we're going to continue to put up points and stop people and win football games, and also keep the faith that we're going to graduate our players and they're going to be well-versed in our community. And so if we give up a touchdown, just keep the faith with us. Don't write us off, but come out and support us. This is an enhanced version of Valdosta State football. We respect what we've done. I'm here because of what we've done.
Right.
And so, but we look to do better. And when I interviewed here, I had on the bottom of my manual, what's coming is better than what's been. And that was a bold statement. But I really believe that. I really believe that we have some enhancements that we can make to continue to make us elite. And so Valdosta State is about being elite in everything that we do. And that's what we're going to do on our end in the football program. So I want our fans to know that. I want our fans to know that we're excited to be here and that we're going to uphold everything that was done here prior and try to move us even to a higher direction.
High standards indeed. Coach, I really appreciate you making time for us again. Best of luck all the way through spring ball, and I'm sure we'll have a chance to get a chance to see you guys in the fall, and looking forward to seeing the squad you're going to put out there. Okay.
Well, I love talking to you guys. Every time I talk to y'all, something good happens to me. So I definitely want to always talk to you guys. Appreciate the job that you guys do with D2 football and promoting Division II football. Again, I'm a lover of Division II football, and so I watch more of your videos than you probably know. So we're really excited. Thanks a lot, Whit.
Thanks, Coach.